A warm welcome to all the viewers for the course Strength of Material. Myself Thea Pal, Assistant Professor of Department of Mechanical Engineering, JIS College of Engineering, and today I am going to give a lecture on theories of failure. So as I have already discussed in my previous lecture that why it is required for us to go with the theories behind the failure, because whenever we are designing any sort of engineering product, it is very essential for all of us to know that what is the basic requirement before designing a product so that the product may not get failed. So if I have a look for this particular content, then I must say that there is certain limit of load that can be permitted by that particular object. So if it exceeds that particular permissible limit, then what happen in that particular situation? The most important thing is happen that the machine get failure, or the element design element also get failure. So here what we are going to do is that there are various researchers who is thinking of knowing the reason behind the failure of this particular concept. They always try to know what is the concept behind this failure. So without any further delay, let us know about what are the theories behind which the or there are certain theories which are basically will define the theories of failure in several cases. So if I talk about what are the various reasons for theories of failure, then the first and foremost thing that arises, it is maximum principal stress theory. Then we talk about the maximum shear stress theory, and then it is followed by maximum principal strain theory, maximum strain energy theory, and finally maximum distortion energy theory. So these are the various theories that are associated with theory of failure. So we are going to have a look in details about all these theories in this particular lecture. In the previous lecture I have already told basically this failure occurs basically due to two reasons. One is the yielding region, another is the fracture region. So these are also lots of theory, the 5 theories that are there behind the theories of failure. And what we are going to do is that before going to the theories, let's have a look at the content today that we are going to that I am going to explain you in this particular content. So as you know, I have already explained in my previous 2 lectures, that is what are the types of mechanical failure, what are the causes of failure in metal. Then I have already explained the maximum principal stress theory. So today in this particular lecture what I am going to study is that it's all about this particular thing, that is your yielding surface corresponding to maximum principal stress theory. Okay, and then we will be discussing about the maximum principal strain theory also, and in the upcoming lecture we will be discussing about the maximum shear stress theory and maximum strain energy theory, as well as we are going to discuss about distortion energy theory. Okay, so without any further delay, let's move to the next slide. So in this particular slide you can see that we are talking about the maximum principal strain theory, and this maximum principal strain theory, it is also known as Saint Venn theory also. And according to this theory, what it has been described here, it is all about that yielding will occur when your maximum principal strain just exceed the strain at tensile yielding point. So if you consider a tensile yielding point when you are implementing some tensile load, in that particular cases you can obtain a maximum principal strain, and it just exceed the strain. If it just exceed the strain at a tensile yielding point, and it can be either in simple tension also or in compression also. So if you consider the strain 1 and strain 2 as maximum and minimum principal strain with corresponding to your maximum stress, that is sigma 1, and minimum stress, that is sigma 2, then what you can get is that strain is 1 by E into, that is stress 1 minus V into stress 2. And in this particular thing what you can see is that stress 1 has to be greater than equal to stress 2. That is stress 1 basically we consider as the hoop stress or circumferential stress in this particular condition, and stress 2 is your longitudinal stress. See, if I talk about the strain energy, that is the minimum strain energy, means minimum principal strain, then there you can see that is 1 by modulus of elasticity in bracket sigma 2 minus V into sigma 1. So this gives basically the final equation that you can see it here, that is modulus of elasticity into strain energy, that gives you the maximum stress minus V into minimum stress. And here also same thing, if you go for the modulus of elasticity into strain energy, that is the minimum principal strain, then it gives sigma 2 minus V into sigma 1, that gives plus minus sigma 0. So these are the limiting case. In case of obtaining maximum principal strain, you need to know that circumferential stress or hoop stress must be greater than your longitudinal stress. But in case of minimum principal strain, you have to know that this particular thing that is longitudinal stress must be greater than your hoop stress or circumferential stress. So if I talk about the maximum principal strain theory, then you can see that according to it, failure in a complex system occurs when the maximum strain in it reaches the value of the strain in uniaxial stress, and that should be within an elastic limit. And if you consider P1 as your maximum stress in a complex state, if you consider P1 as the maximum stress, and P2 and P3 are the stresses which are mutually perpendicular to some uniaxial direction, then I can say that maximum strain energy that you can obtain, which is denoted by strain maximum, that is your P1 minus mu into P2 plus P3 by modulus of elasticity. So again I am telling you are considering P1 as your maximum stress and P2 and P3, these are the two mutually uniaxial perpendicular direction stress, and if you want to know the maximum strain energy, then it is represented by P1 minus mu into P2 plus P3 by E. And if you want to know the strain in uniaxial tension at an elastic limit, then it is this PE, that is the maximum strain you have received, okay, and within the elastic limit it is then PE by your modulus of elasticity. Now if you look at the failure criteria, then I must say P1 minus mu into P2 plus P3 by E. That means your failure criteria is just simple PE by your E, and this PE is what? That is your maximum strain energy, okay, that is the stress that you are considering. Or you can write from there that basically that is P1 minus mu into P2 plus P3 is equal to your PE. And in case of this maximum principal strain theory, again the same thing I would like to repeat, that is this theory holds good for basically brittle material. If your material is brittle in nature, then it is very essential, because this holds good for your brittle material. For ductile material it cannot be implemented in such a manner. And what I was saying is that according to this theory, yielding basically occurs when your maximum principal stress just exceeds the strain at the tensile yield point in either tension or in compression. So here again I am telling strain 1 and strain 2 are basically maximum and minimum principal strain with corresponding to sigma 1, that is your circumferential stress, or it is a hoop stress or maximum stress you can consider, and sigma 2 is your longitudinal stress. And the cases that has been provided here, that is your strain 1 and strain 2, and here you can see that 1 by E into sigma 1 minus V into sigma 2, and strain 2 is your 1 by E, that is the sigma 2 minus V into sigma 1. And in this both the cases you can see sigma 1 is always greater than sigma 2 in the first condition if you want to get maximum principal strain energy, and if you want to get minimum principal strain energy, then your longitudinal stress must be greater than your sigma 1, that is your circumferential stress or hoop stress. So now let's have a look at the second slide. So in this particular figure you can see that what basically the equation holds here. And here you can see that is the yielding surface corresponding to maximum principal strain theory. So sigma 1, that is the circumferential stress you can see here, and this is your sigma 2, this is your longitudinal stress, and this sigma y, this is sigma y, this is also sigma y. So these are basically positive, this is your negative, and this is your negative. In fact, here you are getting sigma y, this is has to be your positive. So if you consider this particular plane, then what you are doing, sigma 1, which is none other than sigma 0 plus v into sigma 2, if you consider this particular plane. Okay, and if you consider this particular plane, then you can see sigma 2, it is none other than sigma 0 plus v into sigma 1. Okay, so again I am repeating, if you just have a look for this particular criteria, that is, so what I was telling is that whatever may be the reason behind the failure, there are certain theories that we have to follow, and this maximum principal strain theory is one of them. And in this particular theory, as you can see, that what I have already explained you, that is, if the theory is, means according to this theory, your yielding will occur when you can go for a maximum principal strain, and which is just exceed the strain at the tensile yielding point in either simple tension or compression one. So if strain 1 and strain 2 are the maximum and minimum principal strain corresponding to your maximum principal stress or minimum principal stress, in that case you have to follow certain limit, and that limit has been already mentioned here. That is, if you want to go with this particular thing, that is strain 1 and strain 2, then it is 1 by E into sigma 1 minus V into sigma 2, and this is 1 by E into sigma 2 minus V into sigma 1. So these are the cases that you can go with this one. So this is what sigma 1, that is your circumferential, has to be obviously greater than equal to your longitudinal stress, and here also your longitudinal stress has to be greater than equal to your circumferential or hoop stress in case of strain minimum, finding the minimum principal strain. So these are the thing that has been mentioned here, and this basically gives here the equation that you need to follow for maximum principal strain theory, that is E into stress 1 strain 1, that is equal to sigma 1 minus V into sigma 2. And when you are finding modulus of elasticity multiplying with the strain minimum principal strain, then sigma 2 minus V into sigma 1, which is equal to this particular value is given here. So again the question is arising that why we are going, or why we are in search of the theories for the failure. Because as you know that whenever we are inventing some sort of design element, the basic requirement is that the machine may not get fail, or I mean to say the design element may not get fail. So in that particular situation, what we can do is that we are just needed to know that what is the maximum permissible strain that a material or design element can withstand, because on that particular criteria only we can see that exactly what is happening, or whether the object is going to get failed or not, we need to know. So every engineer should know what is the reason behind the failure, or every engineer should know the mode of failure for that particular object or for that particular material. And in this particular situation, we are just able to see that why basically we are in search of the theories, and from this particular theory at least we are getting some basic concept regarding how this I must say how this failure is occurring, or what is the prevention that can be made so that the object or the element may not get I mean to say fail. You can use it for a long time. So everything has to be kept in mind. So now we will be moving to the next theory. Okay. So the next theory we are talking about, it is all about maximum shear stress theory. So maximum shear stress theory, it is also known as Coulomb's theory. And according to this theory, the most important thing is that Yielding would occurs when the maximum shear stress just exceed the shear stress. So again I am telling the yielding is going to occur. So yielding means what? I have already mentioned in the earlier lecture that failure basically is occurring when yielding is occurring, another is fracture is occurring. So basically these are the two modes where the failure of materials basically exist or occur. So if I talk about this maximum shear stress theory, which is also known as Coulomb's theory, according to this theory what we are getting, it is that yielding would occur when maximum shear stress just exceed the shear stress at a tensile yield point. So at the tensile yield point, again you are considering sigma 2, sigma 3, these are the stresses that has been considered to be as 0, and thus maximum shear stress is sigma y by 2. So this gives us 6 conditions for 3-dimensional stresses, 6 conditions. So one what you are getting is that if sigma 1 minus sigma 2, that is equal to plus minus your sigma y, sigma 2 minus sigma 3, that is also you giving you the plus minus value of sigma y, and sigma 3 minus sigma 1, that is also giving you the value that is equal to plus minus sigma y. So you can see these are the various conditions, 3-dimensional stress condition, and if you look at this particular cube, then you can see this is your sigma 1, this is your sigma 2, this is 3-dimensional, so there will be another one that is the sigma 3. So sigma 1 and sigma 2, it is none other than the stress in the x direction, this is in the y direction. Sigma 1, it is your circumferential stress, or it is known as the hoop stress, and sigma 2 is your longitudinal stress. And you can see the value, this is the coordinate value where you are getting the value for the stress. This is sigma y, this is also positive sigma y, this is negative sigma y, and this is also negative sigma y, because this is basically your positive coordinate, this is your negative coordinate, but this is your positive coordinate. Here again you are getting this as the negative coordinate, and this one also negative coordinate, and in this particular situation you are getting a positive coordinate along with the negative coordinate. So that what I was discussing in this particular lecture, it is totally on what? The maximum shear stress theory. And again I am repeating, for maximum shear stress theory it is also known as Coulomb's theory, and according to this theory, yielding would occurs when the maximum shear stress just exceed the shear stress at the tensile yield point, and at the tensile yield point sigma 2 is equal to sigma 3, and that is equal to your 0, and thus maximum shear stress is sigma y by 2, and this gives us 6 conditions for using the 3-dimensional stresses. So if I talk about the first condition, it is sigma 1 minus sigma 2, that is equal to your plus minus sigma y, and if I look for the sigma 2 minus sigma 3, then it will give me plus minus sigma y, and if I go with sigma 3 minus sigma 1, it will also give me plus minus sigma y. So these are the various 3-dimensional stresses that has been given here. So you can see sigma 2, sigma 1, sigma 3 is there, that is a 3-dimensional we are including, and thus you can see that what are the various things that is occurring here. Well, maximum shear stress theory, this theory is also known as Coulomb's theories, as I have already told, and basically it was originally proposed by some CA Columbia, and but you know that it is associated with the name of J. Guest and H. Teresa. And according to this theory, if you consider a material and in a complex state also of stress, and it fails when maximum shearing stress in it reaches the value of the shearing stress within an elastic limit. And the most important thing is that it is also within the uniaxial tensile test also, and in general if you want to go with the 2-dimensional system, then the maximum shearing stress that you can obtain, if you want to go with the 2-dimensional system, again I am repeating, if you want to go with the 2-dimensional system, then the maximum shear stress that is occurring, that is represented by Q max, then I must say it is none other than root over of Px minus Py by your 2, that is whole square plus Q. So you can see the stress, again we are talking about the strain, everything has got a relationship to get a maximum shearing stress here. So Q maximum is what? Your shearing stress. So if you want to have a look for the maximum shearing stress, and if you are wanting it to go with the two-dimensional one, then I must say it is very easy and very general concept you can use, that is Q max, it is equal to root over of Px minus Py by 2 whole square plus Q. Q is also your shear stress. And if you want to go for uniaxial tensile test, again I am repeating, if you want to go with an uniaxial tensile test and you want to get a maximum shearing stress that is also within elastic limit, then Q max is equal to root over of Pe. Okay, Pe, that is the shear stress within elastic limit, minus 0 by 2 whole square plus 0. So you are getting the value of maximum shear stress, that is also within the uniaxial tensile test, you are getting the value as Pe by 2. So you can see that maximum shear stress can be obtained in two category. Again I am repeating, according to this particular theory, a material if you are considering, and that is also in complex nature state or complex nature it is in, then basically the stress of failure occurs when your maximum shearing stress in it reaches the value of your shearing stress that is also within elastic limit, and that is also in uniaxial tensile test. So you can see what basically it is occurring in this particular condition. So what I am telling again, Q max is equal to your root over of Px minus Py by 2 the whole square plus Q square. And if I talk about the maximum shearing stress, that is also, if you want to go with the uniaxial tensile test, then what is that? Q max is equal to root over of P square minus 0 P suffix E minus 0 by 2 whole square. So you are getting plus 0, that is none other than Pe by 2. So these are the two equations that you have to keep in mind. But if you want to go with the, according to this theory, if you want to have a look for the failure criteria, then I must say it is none other than root over of Px minus Py by 2 whole square plus Q square. So these also will give you the result as Pe by 2, because this entire thing, that is Px square minus Py square by 2 plus Q square. So if you just solve it, you are going to get the same thing. Now if I ask you that if you want to go with this particular thing as a three-dimensional one, okay, in this case if you consider this case and you solve some sort of problem that is also in three-dimensional problem, then I must say maximum shear stress at a point may be taken as your this P suffix E, and that is a P suffix E, you can say a P suffix 2 comma P suffix 3 square, where P1 is your maximum principal stress. Again I am telling P1 is your maximum principal stress and P3 is your minimum principal stress. So hence from this criteria you can say P1 minus P3, that is divided by P2, is equal to Pe by P2, Pe by 2. So you, what I was telling, that is maximum principal stress is to be considered as P1 and minimum principal stress is to be considered as P2. So P1 minus, I mean to say minimum principal stress is equal to P3. So P1 minus P3, it is only your Pe, and this theory basically holds good for ductile material. So for such a long time, whatever we are talking about the principal stress theory, thank you, or maximum strength theory, we have already gone through. Maximum principal strength theory, I have already mentioned you that both are implemented for brittle material, but maximum shear stress theory, which is also known as Coulomb's theory, it is basically holding goods for your elastic material, within elastic material or within elastic limit for ductile material, and same in tension and compression cases also. It doesn't mean that always tension cases is required. For this particular ductile material, tension and compression both cases are associated. Okay, so again I am repeating, if you want to go with the two-dimensional equation for maximum shear stress theory, then you can write root over of px minus py by 2, that's whole square, plus q square, that will give you the value of pe by 2. And if you want to go with the 3-dimensional one, then you have to consider P1 as your maximum principal stress and P3 as your minimum principal stress, and in that particular condition P1 minus P3, that is equal to PE. So what is this there, that is better result you can obtain for ductile material, that is also within elastic limit and in tension and compression cases also. So you can see in this particular thing that basically what it is happening is that you can get is that this basically gives you a 6 conditions, and you can see the most important thing that has to be kept in the mind, and this condition has to be discussed. So if you have a look for the second case, that is in biaxial stress situation, then I must say this criteria is well with the experience, and in case of pure shear stress you have to consider sigma 1 is equal to sigma 2, that is equal to k, and sigma 3 is equal to 0. Then what you get is that sigma 1 minus sigma 2, that is equal to 2k, or it is also known as sigma y, and this indicates that the yielding stress in pure shear is half of the tensile yield stress, and this is also seen in Mott cycle from pure stress. So this is a Mott cycle, you can see this is the sigma 1 principal stress, this is the maximum principal stress, this is the minimum principal stress, and you can see tau that has been represented by your shear stress. So if you go with the condition, how many conditions I have already told? That's 6 condition you are getting. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can see the 6 various condition has been shown here. So first condition is what? Sigma 1 minus sigma 2, it is equal to sigma y. So for this particular situation, the condition that is need to require, that is sigma 1 must be greater than 0 and sigma 2 must be less than 0. If I talk about the second condition, that is sigma 1 minus sigma 2 is equal to minus sigma y, then in this particular cases sigma 1 has to be less than 0 and sigma 2 value has to be greater than 0. If you say sigma 2 is equal to sigma y, then in that particular situation, what is the thing is that sigma 1 value must be greater than 0 and sigma 2 value must be greater than sigma 1. If you go with the fourth condition, then sigma 1 is equal to minus sigma y. So if sigma 1 is less than sigma 2 and sigma 2 must be less than 0, if this condition has been applied, then you can obtain sigma 1 is equal to minus sigma y. And here also the another condition is there, sigma 1 can be equal to minus sigma y if in that particular situation sigma 1 is greater than sigma 2 value and sigma 2 value is greater than 0 value. And if we consider the last stage, that is sigma 2 is equal to minus sigma y, then in this particular situation sigma 2 is less than sigma 1 value as well as sigma 1 is less than 0 value. So you can see guys that how many condition that has been provided here in case of biaxial stress situation. And in biaxial stress situation you can see that Mott cycle is there, and this is for pure Mott cycle you can have this particular 6 condition that is going to define you the entire thing about this particular process. So if I talk about this particular biaxial shear theory, then I must say that you have already gone through this particular portion and you have seen that why we are running behind the failure theory. For brittle materials, some theories are implemented like principal stress theory. Again, you have talked about maximum principal strain theory. But if I talk about the ductile material, then this is one of the process that has to be implemented for ductile material, that is also within the elastic limit, that has to be followed, and that is none other than maximum shear stress theory. So maximum shear stress theory basically holds good for your ductile material, that is also within the elastic limit, And the most important thing is that it can be tension in nature as well as compressive in nature too. So according to this theory, yielding would occurs when you have received the maximum shear stress theory which just exceed the shear stress at your tensile yielding point. And at the tensile yield point, sigma 2 is equal to sigma 3, which is equal to 0. And if you need to know what is the maximum shear stress, then it is equal to sigma y by 2. So finally we came to the end of this particular lecture, and from here you have already gone through that what are the theories of failure, what should be the thing that has to be considered while for various material, because ultimately we are there to design the product. So whatever the designer, those who are designing the product or designing the machine element, their main target is to know the reason behind the theories of failure. Because if they are not aware, of the mode of failure that is occurring in the material, then it will be difficult for them to know the solution, that that longevity of the material can be much more than the actual it is existing in nature. So thank you for watching the video. If you have liked the video, then please stay connected with me, and in the upcoming lecture we will be discussing about some more theories of failure. So for today we are concluding it here, and thank you viewers for watching the video. Thank you very much. If you have liked the video, then subscribe the channel, like the video, and please stay connected with me. Thank you once again.